Hey everybody, how are you guys doing? I thought I would make another video today. Um, it is really nice outside. Um, it's a little hot, but the wind's blowing. It seems really nice outside. So I wanted to come and talk a little bit more about the life coaching. And I don't know how many of you have been keeping up with, I'm doing a lot of things right now. I've been blogging, so hopefully you've been keeping up with that. And also been um, doing these videos and um, just I did a Facebook Live thing not too long ago. So um, Wanda, if you read my blog this week, I think it was this week or last week, everything's running together. If you had a chance to read the blog, I talked about children in crisis. In other words, children who have suffered a lot of trauma. So I wanted to come on just for a brief time and talk about what we call, well, first, let me start with saying let me tell you about when I was teaching, and I had taught for like 6 or 7 years, and just the stress of it all was getting to me. So the stress of not being able to help the kids the way I wanted to, and the stress of the fact that we need to get them test, or their test scores need to reflect, the teaching and all of that. So I began to be very stressed with not being able to help the way I wanted to, and also getting these kids where they need to be. So just to give you a little background, so I teach first grade, which these are 6, 7-year-old kids. One year I had a group of 5-year-olds that hadn't even turned 6 yet. But it's a group of 6 and 7-year-old kids, and with the idea of that these children have had good parents and good backgrounds, we're expected to teach them how to read. This is a grade that they learn to read. So the requirement at that time at this district was that they had to have 200 sight words they had to know. Also, all their sounds. There's a lot of skills that they have to know. Well, for the most part, these kids came to me without even letter sound skills. So we were, they were hurting, and also we had to figure out how to get them on level. That was the big deal, is getting them on level. Well, how do you get them on level when they're worried about if they're going to eat that night, or if they're worried about, all these things? So there was all the stress of that, and just being gotten after by the administration because my kids weren't where they needed to be. I mean, they eventually got somewhat there, but it was just kind of like, you can't spend all this time dealing with these children's issues. You got to teach. That's what you're here for. That's your job. I know it's my job to teach, but I wanted to help these kids with issues. And so me, myself, I started to get very burnout, very stressed out. I spent really from the time I got up in the morning until the time I went to bed during schoolwork, like doing work. So if you hear anybody say teachers don't do work, they just work from 8 to 3, blah, 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 it's not true. I would get up at sometimes 5:30 in the morning and start working then, and I'd stay at school till 5. Then I'd eat dinner. Like, I'd just go grab food somewhere. and then just keep working until like 10, 11 at night. So I was stressed out myself. Um, and then also dealing with the stress of, these children that have issues and I can't help them. So, a couple of years ago, there was a training, I guess you call it, on childhood experiences, and what they that introduced me to ACEs. So everybody say ACE. So ACEs are stand for Adverse Childhood Experiences. So the premise of this is that if you have any of these ACEs, um, it's the likelihood that you are in a traumatic situation, or just you're stunted in some way. The more ACEs you have, the more problems there are. So, knowing that these children have these ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences, it's supposed to help you to know how to help these children. So, the more ACEs you have, the more of a dysfunctional family or lifestyle you have. And the more dysfunctional, the more um, these kids can't focus. We should, as educators, understand that this is what's keeping these children from learning. So in this training, the trainer at that time had us do the ACE. There's a test to see how many ACEs. So he had us do this, and basically with the ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, you have neglect could be one. If your parents got divorced, it could be one. You had a major life change, that could be one. If you moved into a house, there's like lots of things that at the at when you're a child that could happen. So I remember taking this test, and I remember because I had a traumatic childhood experience, and I knew I would have a lot of ACEs, but it surprised me that, I had like 8 ACEs. And so, if you think about that as an adult, I'm able to process that. But the the wowing factor is that a lot of these kids who are 6 and 7 years old, 5 and 4 years old, have many ACEs, and so they have as many as 8. Like her parents are divorced, or there's no parent, there's neglect, they're not eating. Just at the young age of 6 and 7, there's a lot of those. So what this was designed to do is to help us to help the kids where they're supposed to be, or so they can get where they're supposed to be. However, uh, the schools, there is this training, and that's wonderful, but it seems like there's not any time to implement any of this or an understanding. It's still, we got to get through this test. We got to this is what we need to do. And so, knowing this and knowing that at the early ages, these kids have high ACEs, they have high dysfunction in their life. Again, it just reiterated to me the need for more people to help with these kids with these issues. Um, there's not a lot of help in the schools or anywhere really for these children who are having high traumatic experiences. So my goal is to really get in there and just kind of convince the people like it's not the teachers. Teachers know that they need help. Like the people that I've talked to so far, like they were just like, we need this, in the school, and they do. Um, Also, I want to say that I realize that there are counselors in schools, but nearly all of the schools that I have been in, that has not been the only counselor's job. So, like, the counselor's job is not just to look after the children and counsel them. It's they have a lot on their plate as well. Like teachers have a lot. It's just a lot for teachers even to try and deal with it because you have so much other stuff to deal with. But um, even the counselors, they have a lot more stuff to deal with than just, sitting with children and making sure they're taken care of or good. And so it would really be a supplement to the school system and to even like foster care systems. So I want to encourage you, if you haven't read my blog yet, to on the last life coach one I did, it talked about taking that test uh, for the ACEs. So we as adults can process that better. So be honest with yourself and look at that. And also want to encourage you to think about the children who have these high ACEs, who have all this trauma going on around them and nobody there to help. That's what I want to do. I want to help these kids through. Maybe we can get them some healing, and they can heal faster than we were able to. Like I wish that I had known this stuff before I was 25, and if we can get these kids healed, that's the goal. So I wanted to share about ACEs, and you guys let me know how your scores came out. I would be interested to know. And I will talk to you later. Thanks you guys for watching. Bye.